You're fine.
Just need an opinion.
Fine. It doesn't matter whether you're wearing a hat or not hat or no hat, as long as you, Greg, keep the learning on. Because here we are again, Friday, KTLO, episode. This is getting to be a tradition now. I have to look stupid and say episode 39. Episode 39.
You know, you could edit the stupid parts out if you wanted to.
Well,
I
see,
could.
that's where Greg.
I don't have that kind of time.
What? Yeah, no, Greg, you're our clause.
Yeah,
You're our get out clause.
I'm the escape clause, so that's just
the escape clause. Right.
You can be the clause. I'll be the pause.
Yeah. Hey, Patty, could we pause for just a minute, please?
Oh dear, really? Well, here we are, and it is the end of something. It's the end of our season 2. I don't know what the season means, but anyway, we're calling it the end of season 2. The punctuation at the end of a wild ride.
And it has been a wild ride, hasn't it?
And our first episode was on March 29th. Is that right?
It sure was.
2020. And what a year it's been. It has been a wild ride in many, many ways.
Did you say 2020? That was an each way bet, wasn't it?
It was 2020. It should have been 40-30, but you know, what the heck?
I feel like hindsight is always 2020.
If you're looking at the ketchup bottle, is that hindsight?
Yes.
Punctuation at the end of a wild ride. So is it a semicolon? Is it a period? Is it what is it? A virgule? The little known virgule of punctuation mark, see?
Very good.
It's Kathy. Welcome, Kathy. How are you?
Kathy's got her wonderful holiday.
She does. Kathy Velboom is here. She's putting on her head. She's putting on her headset, checking it twice.
Hello. And when she comes in, it'll be oh so nice.
There you go.
I did not wear my tacky sweater.
No, you did. Nice. I wore
Patty wore her.
That's not tacky. That's not even tacky. Mine, and I have the whole garb on top with a little present, and then the whole sweater's a Christmas present, and then I have leggings that have lights on them that I wore to work.
Wow. I love it. I love it.
Yes.
I have what none of you have. What I have in Christmas garb. Worn mini
sweater.
No, it is. I have, and I'm not wearing them now. I don't want to misrepresent myself. I'm not wearing them now, but I have Converse Chuck Taylor Christmas high tops, red and green plaid with jingle bells attached. Thank you.
Very nice.
I'm just saying.
Very nice.
I'm just saying.
Just saying. So I suppose I should let someone else in. This is the core 4 while we're at it. The core 4 are here. And I wonder who just came to the meeting. Who is it, pray tell? I don't know. Come on, controls.
Who's at the door?
I don't know who's at the door.
It could be anything.
Someone's at the door. Get the door. Get the door, Virgil.
It's Elf.
It is Elf, I believe.
Careful. It could be Elf on a shelf.
It could be soap on a rope.
Did you say dope on a rope?
Soap on a rope. There are no controls for the waiting room at the moment, so we're just gonna mosey along.
How did Miss Velboom get in?
There is one coming up shortly.
I found the secret back door.
All right.
No, you came in and it went ding dong, and
what episode was it that we got Zoom bombed?
You actually did. I've been in one of those.
Episode 2.
Yeah, it was brutal.
Episode
I have to go
2.
back. I know I watched that one.
No, it didn't. we abandoned and got back on.
Okay.
Had a private call.
Yes.
I think there's someone coming to the door.
Oh, that's pretty.
There we go. We're going to come back to that. We're going to go, there's the waiting room. Okay. It was hiding behind Daniel Breston. It was cleverly hidden behind Daniel.
Don't make Daniel talk this week. Don't make him talk.
Good morning, Daniel.
Yeah, he's not talking.
Welcome back, Dan. Woohoo!
How are you doing today?
He's not
I don't
talking.
even get a thumbs up.
All right,
Where's your hat?
the goal for today is get Daniel off the mute. No, don't talk.
Hi, everybody.
Matter of fact, none of us are going to talk today.
Yeah.
It's
Nope.
we'll just sit
We'll
here.
just sit here.
In the spirit of a grommet, I decided not to wear a Christmassy type
That's
thing.
quite grommet of you. So if we all sit around and don't talk, it'd be like a family gathering at Christmas, right?
Oh, look at it's Orion.
Not my house.
Yeah.
Well,
Not-
that's interesting because Ariane was on our very first episode. So here she is.
Oh, hello.
Just come
Final
back to haunt
season
us.
one.
She's haunting me, I think.
Not at all. I'm just really glad to see you all, and I've really appreciated the journey you guys have taken us through the year. I might not have joined all the live streams, but I certainly have been keeping track of the topics, and they're very topical and interesting and diverse.
You're keeping track of us?
Always.
Hey, does that qualify for GDPR?
It's not trolling.
Or is that stalkering?
No, not at all.
Stalk me any day. I'm fine.
Meanwhile, Roy's over here trying to think GDPR. What can I make out of that? Just gonna let it. I'm just leaving it.
Roy, does Santa
Nothing-
Claus
Just
break
gonna let it mull.
GDPR rules?
Does Santa Claus break? Oh yes, absolutely. He is in complete violation of GDPR, and nobody else really cares about it except Belgium. Belgium is ticked off about it, and so if Santa Claus ever goes over Belgium, we have a problem.
So I saw a bit that I don't know if it's legit, but some European countries' parliament declared that Santa Claus was exempt from COVID restrictions. Anybody know if that's true?
Yes.
I think I've heard that as well.
Yeah.
What's that? What was it?
Ireland. I think it's a publicity stunt. How do you get yourself in front of loads of people trying to make light of a poor situation?
And I was going to say, and get 40 million Americans going, yeah, that's what we should be doing.
I'm interested to know, okay, out of this year's events, besides keeping the learning on, what have been your absolute moments of sheer joy and like, aha, this was really well worth the time and effort? Because let's be fair, this year I've attended more events than I've ever attended. I've been from Australia to Canada to America, you name it, everywhere. And I think I've actually seen you too, Simone. Go on, tell us, what have you been your gems?
Oh, my gems. Oh, I was actually just giving thumbs up to Daniel's wonderful
Don't make him come off mute.
No, it's Christmas socks. He's got back Christmas socks. I think they're just, that's a sheer moment of joy, is being able to see Bat Dan's bat socks.
Roy, did you email her the script? Is that what you did? You're gonna set her up as being the guest interviewer?
Well, yeah.
Brilliant.
Really isn't going to speak.
I owe Orion money, so
I know. Now, truth be told, I think I do too.
Well, favors aside, I think this year, in spite of the restrictions, I think we've all come a bit closer together as a community, which has been, for me, it really shows the depth of the relationships that everybody has kind of built over time.
I think it's amazing how we all got together online, and a year or two ago we were hearing things like, you can't emotionally connect, you can't be, online. It's just not going to happen. And we don't want people working from home because it just isn't the same. And it isn't the same, but you can still emotionally connect. I look at the four of us and what we've, 39 episodes in, and how we knew each other before and how we know each other now. And, it amazes me. And Kathy, getting to know you, I feel like I have like a office sister, and
You sure do.
I've never met you in person.
No.
I love this. I think
Yes.
that's the joy of this, is that we can globally connect and form these amazing relationships. And it's possible. And no, it isn't exactly the same. That's pretty cool.
I think whatever nexus you started off with at the beginning of the year, that has definitely shifted.
Well,
Oh, yeah.
so is it just me? But the first couple of months of the whole quarantine, it was very quiet, very eerie, very kind of, I don't know. And I just started reaching out, texting, WhatsApp, video conferences. And we all just kind of started, all of us started just reaching out. And we did what we do. I mean, it's the equivalent of, hey, let's go to coffee, right? Except we can do it globally. So I think we learned something. And for me, one of those things was reach out. Like, I reach out to people just to have a conversation, and it may or may not be towards any specific end. Like, let's talk about a topic, and if something sparks, hey, let's make something happen. If it doesn't, then I got to know somebody.
Exactly, Greg. And so many people, think or, oh, I don't want to bother someone. And really, you are giving that person a high compliment that you have thought to call them. And 99.9% of the time, depending on if any of you called me, but no, if other people called me, I'd love to have a chat to
Right.
hear what's going on. But I think it's the openness and the willingness that you guys have demonstrated throughout this year that has really been a glowing example for people who maybe aren't quite there yet.
See, I think there's,
go ahead.
Yeah, I think there's two kinds of areas I really discovered, and it was, are we engaging in being a beacon of hope, even if it's just reaching out one-on-one, or are we the one in need of hope? And I think each of us have been through that cycle at different points.
And in different parts of your life as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I was going to also just comment that in the beginning of the pandemic, it was very internal focus. So a lot of the businesses were communicating amongst their teams, and it was like over the top meetings, like 3-4 catch-ups a week, whereas normally you'd have one team meeting a week or one every 2 weeks. But because of the office banter, you'd get that sort of in the corridor kind of conversations. Now trying to replicate that in a digital space, that's been harder. But the reaching out to communities beyond your immediate has gotten easier, because you have to kind of take a step out. And if I go back to the conferences and stuff that I've attended this year, I noticed in the very beginning, some of the conferences were just, you turned up and it was like a webinar. And as the year progressed, that interaction became more and more, it really improved to the point where you were in separate breakout rooms. You're starting to have, I think I even went to one where there was like a music dancing, and we were all rocking off, and it's really transformed the way that those digital things have been occurring. So for me, it's been an interesting thing to be part of and witness.
I've also observed there are so many neat things that are happening as we get to see each other's home life. We recognize things in the background, or, Greg, like with your guitar behind you, right? We're seeing things in people's lives, and we're seeing families, and we're meeting people. And, any number of meetings, I've had a grandchild come, and I've, and I think that we're it creates the connection of humanity. We're not just workers and cogs in that wheel, but we actually are humans that have all these other dimensions and different facets to what we do. Some are artists, some are, and we're learning those things where at work we may not have learned those. And I think that's how we get closer.
Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth, Patty. I wanted to add on to that by getting to know each other and people's homes better and maybe kids better and who knows better, you said they're making me laugh in the background.
Sorry.
Bringing the human side into it, because we are humans and we spend so many hours a day working, that by getting to know each other, crossing that barrier into what someone feel is their very private home, for many, I hope that it has been a blessing. We now have a little bit more empathy for each other, respect that they have a life outside of ours. They're caring for, maybe a senior parent that is in a certain state, that's different than ours, and supporting each other through that as well.
We've stopped seeing each other as whatever title or role we have.
So, Kathy, you're an interesting example for me, because you just joined us. You joined us, and we got to know you in the context of coming on and being on the show, and then staying for the after show and all of that. But the thing is, you showed up as authentic as I think you know how. Meaning you were ready to be in an authentic conversation. You didn't show up guarded. You didn't show up two-dimensionally. You didn't show up with, here's my business card, wouldn't you love to do business with me, kind of thing. You just showed up and you joined the conversation. And I think that's that human connection that makes this, whatever this thing is that we're doing, it makes it work. It makes it real. And I'm gonna call on Daniel. Daniel raised his hand, and I think that means I want to share something.
Oh, and he turned up a second time. Go figure.
I know, even after we scared him.
So I'm just wondering if organizations reflect like we're doing now. Do they remember that they went and changed the way that they communicated and collaborated and worked with people and learned about people without the 19 different change advisory boards? I'm sorry, change authorization boards, whatever they're called, that they would have had to use in 2019 to achieve the same amount of alteration in their practices. And will they continue to respect that if in some point in 2021 they go back to the office?
So here's my thought on that. And I'm not saying I'm right, but this is something that I'm observing. I think there'll be organizations that just take what they've learned and just go and really differentiate themselves in the market. And I think there's some organizations that just can't wait to get everybody back in the office where I can count heads and make sure you're here on time and don't take too much time at the coffee shop or whatever. And I think that we're going to start differentiating destination employers from the ones that you get a paycheck from and move on as quickly as you can. And I think in the marketplace that is in front of us, you can't afford to be on the wrong side of that equation. You need people engaged. You said something profound, Daniel, and I think you meant it, is the level of bureaucracy associated with organizational controls that we were forced to observe. What happens if you just let people do what they think is the right thing? In some cases, they do the wrong things, but in a great many cases, when you have the right employees and the right cultural context, they excel and do great things.
I think we're going to get ourselves into a position, though, where we're going to start recognizing the people who don't reflect. So reflection is the only way we grow. We look back on things and we say, here's where I think we could expand upon. Here are the things that I don't think we can expand upon. And then there's the organizations that really like, and you touched on it, Greg, very well, but the human condition is to slide back into my comfort zone and the patterns that I have been using. And if I've been in business for umpteen million years, I'm going to continually want to slide back into those comfort zones, right? And I think that's just the human condition, unless we stop and really think. And then that's an intentional act, and that's cultural. That's
well,
cultural.
one of the things that I know for sure is that people do not wish to engage in changing in any way, shape, or form, whether it's themselves or in their role or the organization, unless something is uncomfortable. And it has to be uncomfortable enough, but not overwhelm them.
I will add that, yes, with this caveat.
Yes.
The only way they get uncomfortable is if they experience and see a better way.
Exactly.
And so the better way becomes much more appealing than hanging on to the comfort. So it's
better the devil you know, we used to say, right?
So one of the things where I think there's huge opportunities going forward is, I started 2020 with a little bit of a disdain towards the term digital leaders or digital leadership or even digital organizations. And if you go back and look at early episodes, I probably even said that, right? Because I'm very transparent. You know what I'm thinking. Going forward, though, I think we learned and I'm pointing back to Daniel, is like we've learned new ways of working, or at least we've been forced out of the zone just out of necessity. And I think digital leadership or organizational leaders need help in understanding what is it, because they have board level obligations for controls and regulatory and compliance and stakeholder, shareholder value, deliver on value. They've got to do that. And that's a big part of what drives them. And the way they know how to do that is through traditional controls that we have done, right? So going forward, we need to explore, well, what does it look like to lead and to have appropriate governance, but not stymie, command and control, and disengage your employees? I think that's a big, big deal.
I think that's a bigger conversation. The conversation is at the board level, at the C-suite level, and throughout the organization. Because the board and the C-suite in those KPIs, what their goals and their attention and their focus are on, will drive a lot of that. And it has to be a conversation that opens the door to saying, are we a company where digital supports us? And is that something that has to be led differently? And I believe it does.
Now,
And I think
so we've been talking
okay.
about the sort of debriefing and reflection moment, but it almost feels like this is a circular thing, right? So in the beginning, you start talking about strategy, design, planning, and this is what we're going to do. We're going to go do digital transformation, blah blah blah. Then as you kind of going through it, you have to keep coming back and keep touching your touchstone to say, is this what we're looking to achieve? And are we resetting and realigning our goals? Because if you kind of set off with a task, as you're going along, you might find actually it's not working because there's this problem, or we have a cultural issue. There's lots of things in the way. So how do we then be the water that goes round those obstacles and still achieve our goal? So I think this brief debrief needs to be something that needs to be a bit more proactive in businesses, because it doesn't matter whether it's planning or whether it's at this stage. Do you know what I mean?
I think we need to accelerate the cycles of governance. Traditionally, organizations will say, all right, here's our annual strategy, right? And we've heard of the goals cascade. Here's the corporate goals, here's your divisional goals, and here's your goals, all the way down to your goals for you personally. And it's like that 2020, we couldn't go on the goals that were established in 2019. It would be ridiculous, right? And so we need to be adaptive at the governance level, so people at the tactical and execution level know that they're in alignment, but they can act quickly and act, relatively independently in pursuit of those goals. it's fundamentally different. And I think that's where Patty was saying. It's a top to bottom transformation of how we operate.
Roy.
So I'm going to go back to, hope bear in mind what Greg was just saying. I'm going to go back to something that Daniel said earlier. And it's something I've been saying quite often this year in writing and online, is that 2020 has been the great accelerator. People thought, oh, we're going to have to put the brakes on everything. No. It has either been step on the gas or you might as well get out of the car, because as we've been saying, there have been organizations that I've talked to that had this decision point. Okay, we're going to send everybody home, but wait a minute, our corporate policy says we can't have people working from home. Okay, our corporate policy makes room for people working from home, but they can't have kids or pets. Okay, I guess we disregard. We're throwing that out the window because we cannot work. So I think that organizations at that time had big decisions to make, made those big decisions, and some of them have adopted ways of doing business that are far different from what they were back in the early part of the year. And those organizations have changed as time has gone on. As you were saying, Orion, early on about the attending conferences all around the world. And the methods of those conferences have changed. The way we interact with people has changed. Companies went out and discovered platforms that they could use that they weren't aware of before. They decided how to virtualize these events, how to facilitate conversations online, how to make sure that it wasn't just a big webinar with somebody flashing PowerPoint up there and nothing else going on. So it's been a great year of acceleration, and at times that the speed of acceleration has been dizzying. But here we are coming to the end of it, and now we're looking back and we see, wow, we've made progress in a lot of areas that we may have not have been thinking about at the opening point of the year. So it's been a good year in that respect.
And I think I think when we do the reflection, the introspection necessary, that pivot is, we have learned a lot. What are we going to do with it? And I believe that part of the differentiator between going forward organizations and, dragging back is that openness to say, well, what did we learn? What did we mean? I know an organization, wink, wink, that is still pushing. It's like, if you're working from home, you have to have a signed telework agreement. And the telework agreement form says, you can have up to 2 days of work with manager approval from home. So now I'm filling out a form for a formality for a policy that we don't understand why it is, that doesn't match the circumstances. So I'm either lying or misrepresenting what I'm actually doing. That is not a learning organization. We've got to really think to ourselves, what is it that we're trying to accomplish here?
I think it goes beyond that too. I often wonder and wander in amazement. There's a bit of the exploration that goes with that too, at the extremes that our world this year has presented to us and how we adapt to those extremes that have occurred. And so even though we might say, is this the punctuation at the end of the wild ride? There is no end to a wild ride, because it actually lives on in our memories, in our experience, and it's visceral. It's actually built into our resilience muscle now. And we want to ask questions like, did we enjoy the speed, or the wind in our face, or the excitement of never quite knowing if we're maneuvering in the right direction? Are we going with the flow, or are we redirecting the flow? And so I really think we need to ask questions first. We have to have that sense of curiosity, and that sense of doubt is what causes a question to be asked in the first place. So I think that's what helps. Being curious helps us embrace uncertainty in that conversation of, where are we going to take this, or what did that lesson teach us?
One of the things that you've both referred to is about going so fast, because you've had to go from not really having policies that address the world that we're in now, and we had to change so quickly that sometimes the organization was flying forward without any wheels or anything on the ground. And what I think is where people are now, is that maybe they've gone too fast. They have to kind of go back, revisit and refine, make, get the security in place, make sure that there is, Daniel, you've raised a valid point about mental health. There's a lot of things that kind of fell through the cracks during this time, that it all went so quickly that it was just, by all means, let's just get to the destination without actually thinking about how do we continue to make this a sustainable pathway. So that's going to be interesting, how businesses will start to embed, revisit, refine, and improve the way that they're doing things.
I think that we grow together or we don't. Right? Or we don't. I've been looking at articles too. I love the idea of acceleration, but with acceleration comes responsibility, and leadership responsibility that goes alongside that is we have to figure out how to play different. We've asked all of our employees to play differently. We are now in their homes, we're in their lives, and we have asked them to take their insecurities and show them all to us on screen. Some meetings are being recorded. Some meetings are being, we've asked a lot of employees, and as organizations, our goal should be, how are we as leaders growing to accommodate engagement? And it doesn't include keyboard tracking, and it doesn't include monitoring how often you're logged in or monitoring it includes being human as leaders, figuring out ways to work differently because we've asked them to.
And for goodness sakes,
Continue that, Patty. Leaders are employees.
Yes.
They've had to open up their house. They've had
Yes.
to open up their, for lack of a better word, mental health issues or concerns, or be recorded or whatever, which is, massive. And I think if you're going to continue this, to use Greg's favorite word, digital way of working, sorry, Greg. No, I'm not.
No, you're not.
To continue
You're
this
not.
digital way of working, that the welfare of your staff has to be redefined. I mean, people used to laugh about the fact that you would, I can get 24/7 Wi-Fi now. I can work when I want to. I can answer emails and stuff like that. 2020 has shown that that's not a good thing, actually.
There are limits to good associated with that. And I think, to your point, Daniel, I think that, leaders or managers probably more likely who have inordinately invested their time into how we do things, managing activities, measuring the measurable. Like, did you sit at your desk and did you type? Did you produce that report by, Thursday afternoon? They're struggling with, well, what do I do now when I can't actually measure that? And I think for them, the transition in the leadership model, and I think that's where Patty's alluding to, is you need to transition to outcomes that serve the needs of the organization. And that's difficult, particularly in the mid to lower tier levels. There's always been that criticism of lower level managers of like the upper level managers have their head in the cloud. They don't really understand what's going on. They don't understand the problems. And it's because there's a lot of managers who are actually just supervisors or babysitters of activities, and we need to elevate to, are we achieving the outcomes that this organization needs? And that disconnects us from, were you logged in? Did you did you send that email or whatever? Is like, did you produce the outcomes that we need? And there's a real big vacuum, I think, heading forward in that space. Organizations are going to need help transforming their thinking process, their culture, and to address it head on, the mental health, the culture, the people. And I don't mean being counselors, whatnot. I just mean that's part of being an organization where, if we expect our people to bring them whole selves to work, people are messy people. I'm a messy person. We're all messy people because we're authentic, we're genuine, we're real. And when we're inviting people into our homes for meetings like this, it's like, you don't get to put the mask on. I'm at work, I'm putting my work mask on. Now I'm not at work, I'm putting the work mask off, right?
But here's the thing. One of the things that started to happen this year as well is that employers, under the guise of concern for the well-being of their employees, have started, well, let's have mindful Mondays meditation. Let's have terrific Tuesday tea hour. Let's have wonderful Wednesday water sports. I don't know what, you know what I mean? Every one thing after another, after another, after another. So it's not enough that you do video meetings and you're on video.
Can we get the camera on Daniel to see his
Yes.
Thursday yoga? He was doing yoga.
He's doing it.
For those
There
of
you
you
go.
watching the recording, he was doing yoga.
So we have to be careful of that. And I'm going to say this, and I know that there are executives out there in the wide world who are thinking it. And I'm pointing my finger at you executives who are thinking it. This cannot become yet another way to intrude on people's lives. You cannot use this as a method of mind. Oh, you must be on video from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. on Tuesday when we do our tea time. Stop it. Stop doing that.
And I've said it quite a few times in a lot of our episodes. Attendance does not equal performance. Performance is about deliverables. If you have salaried employees and if you have people who don't have to be on specific shifts and you can't figure out how to manage a team to deliverables and you care more that they've gotten up and walked their dog instead of it peeing on their carpet, and that bothers you, then you have a leadership problem. You don't have an employee problem.
Oh, that's just total heresy. That's blasphemy. Just mute yourself, Patty, because you know darn well that we, as key stakeholders in this company, my responsibility is to make sure that every resource, and all people are resources, I'm making it obvious that I'm making fun of that mindset, are optimized for value production. And if you're not in front of your camera, in front of your computer, there's no possible way that you could be producing value. So that's what I got to do as a manager. I need to make sure.
You know what, Greg? Right now, aren't we so lucky that it is purely digital? Because otherwise I could actually reach in and just pull on your pom-pom right now.
Oh, pull on your pom-pom.
But see, there are, and this is what Roy was alluding to, there are I have no idea what Daniel's saying. I think he's saying
slapping you across the face.
Oh, that's what it is. I think there are executives who feel that tension. And I feel like and I hope that there's executives watching this show, and please contact me. My contact information will be here. But I think there's a thought process that says, you don't understand the level of accountability that I have at the senior executive level for productivity and outcomes within this organization. So we need to help them understand exactly that.
Exactly. But those two words, outcomes and results, right? It's not a matter of how we get there. What's the difference between taking your dog out or going to fill your cup, cough a cuppy? Oh, goodness.
Have a copy.
I have two of them down here, cuppies.
I'm totally tweeting that.
I want to cough at puppies.
I want to cough.
That's brilliant.
You know,
I actually do have a coffer of puppies.
Yeah. Or people that are standing, chatting, non-work related stuff at work.
Because we can watch them. We can watch them, Kathy.
You're not watching them. I challenge you on that. You're not watching them in the hallway.
Sorry.
Unless
you're not a robot? You're not a robot? You don't
Yes, I am.
You don't sit down at your desk and perform certain things, and by noon I want to see this, and by 12
Go for it, Patty.
1 I want to see this.
You know you want to.
Oh, hold on a minute. You're not a robot?
But I need to come in here and say that I think, leaders need to stop and go back and think of when they were an employee and when they were a successful employee, because the whole reason they got into a leadership role is by being successful employees. And did their leaders trust them? If we've given them the autonomy to go out and do their work and they produce great results that are showing leadership what they need to see, it's time for leadership to be open, willing, and trust. We've taken some steps to get there.
Also
but
blessed.
we've got some ways to go. And through that part, I have to add that another part of that everyone's talking about now is resiliency.
Hmm.
I agree.
Best boss I ever
Kathy,
had.
that's not my stakeholders' annual statement.
But if it's showing you the results that you need to see, you
So,
know, do you want a time
best-
card or do you want results?
Yeah,
Because you can have people having a time card and being on screen. That does not mean they're getting anything done.
Absolutely.
So you're
I
still
just heard
measuring. You're measuring the same thing.
So
It's
if
just a
you
matter of the employees having a better experience to produce the results that you're looking for.
Patty's having a little conniption over there. Get
Sorry.
off mute and say what you had to say. All right.
She's
Okay.
still just gonna.
I
I think
was
we're
I was
losing Patty. I think we've lost her.
Why did you sneak into her coffee, Greg?
I don't know. Maybe she had a
Was
cup
it a
of
coffee?
she had a cuppy of coffee.
of cuppies.
A cup of Doffy.
What now? One of the things I was going to ask is if you have employees, right, in your organization that you're trying to get the best out of, and you say to them, think outside the box. Sometimes you have to go really slow to get that thought process happening, to be able to think, okay, what is the box? What could be outside the box? And sometimes that is just could be staring at a screen looking at a diagram for ages, but there's a lot of stuff that's going on. And what is the difference between humans and machines is the way that we think, the way that we problem solve. And you might need to print it out on paper and scribble all over it. I mean, that's my thing. I'm always tactile and doing things and talking about things. And if you put people into the same box, you're never going to get that innovation that is the thinking out of the box that people really want for a business to innovate.
We've got
and
to
be
just
different.
get rid of the box.
No,
This is what, just get rid of that.
Well, in some respects, in
No,
some
no.
respects, Simone, that's exactly what's happened in 2020. We got rid of the box. The box was the office. Put
Without
people in a cubicle
Yep.
and then try to arrange them in certain ways.
Even though on the Zoom gallery we're in boxes, there's so much happening.
I hadn't thought
Even
about that.
responsibilities is within
You can't
boxes.
see.
Tasks is in boxes. Deliverables is in boxes.
we start?
Goals are in boxes. and all it is it's just we're not thinking in different patterns. And this is making us think
I
differently.
don't care how pretty the wrapping paper is, how pretty the ribbon is around the box. Stop putting me in a box.
So hold on. In order to be able to recognize and see that there is potential outside the box, you have to recognize the reality of the box you're in. And that's what's missing. We aren't reflective enough to say what is working and what isn't working. And in our organizations in 2020, we found cracks that were hidden. I've said this before, we've ripped open the underbelly of everything that's wrong, and yet we're not addressing it. And it's incredibly important that we stop long enough to recognize the box we're in so that we
Sometimes
can
I think I'm Schrodinger's
understand where
cat.
potential lies.
I'm Schrodinger's cat. You have to figure out whether I'm alive or dead inside this thing.
I'm Schrodinger's Heidegger.
Yeah.
That's my philosophy, and I'm also never mind. Okay, just gonna go off on German.
Theoretical physics and philosophy aside.
Well, it would be yes.
Is theoretical physics when you're a kid and you want to jump out the window? Is that theoretical physics?
Well, it
That would
involves
be-
physics and it involves a theory. And
Yeah.
there's always going to be a
All right.
cause and effect, right? So if
Exactly.
we're looking, this cause and effect is an interesting way of it comes back down to that reflection. We have the opportunity to look at the effect of where we are now and have a reflection about, okay, what can we change? How do we then make it sit differently so that we achieve different results? And and I know that we're talking about boxes, but the box thing is a metaphor. It's about the way we're being molded into a particular way of behavior. And to have a change in behavior, we have to have a change in expectations.
Time to break the mold.
Open the box.
So I do agree with that, but I keep harping on this, and I think it's really, really important. I don't believe that you can have a successful, systematic transformation of culture starting from the grassroots. We've got to get into the boardroom. We've got to get into the senior levels and change the culture expectations that are set there. Otherwise, it's just us, so you can say whatever you want, but we're going to be happy at work kind of thing, which is fine because we're all responsible for ourselves. But if you want to fundamentally change the way organizations achieve goals and to maximize the potential of humans to produce outcomes that the company cares about, you've got to change the culture at the very DNA level.
Yes, but that doesn't always work.
It doesn't always work.
Because what can happen is you can have top-down leadership and everybody on the ground floor says, you don't get us, where these are our problems and your initiatives and your stuff is great because you want to talk about mental health, but it's not, Roy, you mentioned that. It's like, it's not answering it the way I want it done. So, the same way you answer a customer's problem and say, let me build a website, let me build a service journey that answers a user's needs. We should be doing the same within an organization and getting that buy-in. So you kind of meet in the middle, not just one way.
I was going to say,
you have to model. You have
Yeah.
to model that attitude and the behavior that you want.
to create the
Not
culture.
just say, I want. Okay.
So I
If
was going to
I'm doing this, and please look at what I'm doing for a change. I know I've never done this before. I've always been don't do as I do as I say. But now I want you to actually help me do what needs to be done. And I think that's a big change in the boardroom, Mr. Sanker.
Yep. And that's what I was going to say is, Orion, if the kind of transformation from the leadership is we've thought of a great idea, now you all are going to change the way you behave, you haven't changed anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's a
And you have
very
to-
different.
And you have to stop the expectation that culture can be changed in the next 3 quarters. Culture takes a long time to change because it involves way too many pieces. It involves a mindset change throughout the organization. It involves behavior changes. It involves changing what we measure, who we are as an organization, what performance really looks like, and what our expectations are, what we tolerate, what we're going to not tolerate. All of those things are all encompassing. And so when you make a decision at the top to say, I want this culture, for instance, what if I want an innovative culture, because we've heard that a million times. We want to build an innovative culture. So you people over here, you do this little agile thing and I'll keep doing what I've always done, but I'm not going to support it financially for continuous improvement. I'm not going to, right? So it's an all business thing. It is top and bottom. It is grassroots to the top, but there has to be some leadership around the willingness to know what changing culture is going to look like on the governance side.
I'm going to disagree with you, Patty, a little bit.
Okay.
And I'm going to, because I have been in a relatively large organization whose culture was changed radically in a very short space of time. And I'll tell you why I think that was. It's much easier to change a culture in a negative way than it is in a positive way. There's a reason that the Greek myth shows Sisyphus pushing the rock up the hill. It's much easier to roll the rock down the hill, right? And I saw an organization with one change in the C-suite go from being an active, engaged community of people who cared about each other to people who just came to work and went home in a very short space of time. I would say within 1.5 years. Amazing.
I've been involved in 2 merger and acquisition efforts where absolutely the culture was changed negatively from a really cool culture to one that
so it's that positive change. It's that
yes.
desire to become something more than we are that requires a tremendous amount of engagement at both ends.
Yes.
Right? Top end and bottom and in the middle, because the middle is the hinge
Absolutely.
It is.
Uh,
And, if we want to change that shape or that skyline of what things look like, well, that only happens because that's a reflection of the people within it anyway. So
Mhm.
there's you can't change the outside look and what it feels like unless the people within it are wanting to do the same. And that's just the key to it. It's always going to be about, the joy only shows when you start becoming your purpose. And so if you go into the vibes in your organization, and I will use the word vibes, it's a funny one in Australia. It's like it's the vibe of the thing. When you go in and you sit there and you feel the buzz or you hear the buzz, the way people talk about their work, the way they talk about their organization, these are all such critical clues that unless you're actively listening, unless you are purposely putting your stethoscope to the heartbeat of what's happening, then you're not going to know what's going on and you're not going to be able to understand where it needs to shift. And the thing is that you alone as the leader can't shift it. Only the people that are there will shift it. We, as you were saying before, Patty, they want to go, we need them, they want to have to go somewhere, and you have to show them where that somewhere is.
Wow. We have a lot to say about that topic.
I guess we
No,
do.
vision is really important. I don't know that I can add to the elegance with which Simone described that, because I think there is a real need for us to look at value as it is described by the company, but also each department, and how people understand how they personally add value in that vision. And I think that's a real key to being able to get there.
Yep.
But knowing where you want to be so you can do the stuff today to get to where you want to be.
Yep.
And that's that. Thank you, Orion, for saying that, because that takes us right back to episode 1, to where we started the journey. All right. Excellent. And we started talking about maybe not knowing what your specific destination was, but knowing who you wanted to be when you get there, as Patty brought up several times during the course of this year. We came to a fork in the road and we took it, as Yogi Berra would say. We thought a lot about where we were going and who we wanted to be when we got there. And here we are, and we don't know what the heck we're doing, but who does? You can only look back, right? You can only see what happened in retrospect. And so what happened for us was a lot of engagement, and just wanted to point up the fact that we have had people on this journey with us, and we're not sure why, but frankly, but people came along for the ride, and we want to make sure that we acknowledge your contributions to our thought processes, and these are some of the folks who have come on video and audio with us over the course of 2020. Thank you very much, Mark Thomas, Kathy Velboom, who's here today, Dee Burgoyne, NJ, Alfredo, Daniel is here today, Akshay, Orion, Doug Tedder, Todd Davis, and the subscribers that we have on YouTube who come back when they can during the week and listen to what's happened. And they go, what happened? And then, and we will be back in January 8th, I believe, will be the next episode. And I did want to leave you with this picture, this is Greg's living room. Greg took this photo a couple of days ago. When did you take the photo, Greg?
I think it was Tuesday of this week.
Tuesday.
I think so.
And it was a long exposure, 25-second exposure.
20 seconds, f11, and 18 millimeter.
Thank you. Us photographers appreciate those facts.
Orion is going to text me in a minute going, what? Why weren't you at 23? Come on, Greg.
So it really is a beautiful photo, and I wanted to just make sure that that got some airtime. Greg, thank you for sharing that photo with us.
It's the glow.
I will share that this photo captured very well my feeling, and so I'm saying with a photo a lot of words that I could say at this time of year about how much I care about you guys and how much you've enriched my life and how I feel. But just let that photo kind of speak to you, and I mean what you feel from that photo.
I am so
Yeah.
grateful, absolutely grateful for 39 episodes. Can't even imagine when we started this. But the fact that our conversations that we knew were a joy for us have expanded into bringing joy in from others. And just so grateful for everyone who has taken a part and been willing to be challenged and willing to challenge us.
And and like you too, Patty, just the I think the grateful side of it for me has been being able to stay connected. That, thank you, tech world. Thank you to all the IT support technicians out there for enabling that, because many of us we're from all over the world here. And a lot of us have family that are on the other side of the world. I mean, winter is deepening here, and yet it's high summer where I come from. And yes, thank you to the designers, the developers, the technicians, the telecommunications guys. I came from comms. So the comms guys that, made this world happen. And with, it has been, Patty's always had my sanity in a cup. Greg has always kept me highly amused, and that's the joy that keeps your balance. And Roy, forever, Master Roy, my depth of wisdom and font of philosophy that keeps me making sure that I think more broadly, more widely, that I don't stay in one place, that I keep seeing more and more. So absolutely, that's been a joy. I'm like you, Patty. I'm going 39. How did this happen? It's
Crazy.
the thing. How did this thing happen? And it's still happening.
We started off wondering where we were going to go, and we wound up with a coffee cuppy. So there we are.
It's a complete circle.
Our journey
right there.
And when you said that, Kathy, I was reminded of a friend of mine who's actually a nuclear. He's the nuclear guy for Columbia University and several hospitals around New York City. It's a PhD in nuclear science from Rensselaer Polytechnic, and Peter. His name is Peter Caracappa, and we used to refer to him at Rensselaer Polytechnic as Peter Cup of Cocoa. So I thought of Peter when you said coffee cuppy. But anyway, shout out to Peter and his lovely wife, Mary. So here we are, end of 2020. I know a lot of people are ready to say good riddance. Holy cow, man.
Thank goodness for that one.
Yeah, but as we've pointed out, a lot of positive has come from this year, and keep on keeping on, as the old saying goes, and into 2021. Once again, we will be back on January 8th. So it's a couple of weeks. We haven't figured out where we're going to go with season 3 yet. We did do a change from season 1 to season 2 in the format of things, and we went to an interview.
Dance. I'm thinking interpretive
dance.
Yeah.
I excel at interpretive dance. I'm the guy who sits in the chair and says, "Yeah, no." But we haven't figured it out what our little change is going to be. But we'll be back in January.
Greg might even get the guitar off the wall.
And speaking of off the wall, there's Greg now. That was very well done. You've done that before, Greg.
I have.
See.
For those that don't know, Daniel just put up a 10 from the European judge.
I have it. I have us in gallery view, so
Oh, okay,
we can
okay.
all.
So he
Yes, I'm hoping that YouTube is catching this as well, so we're all displayed on the screen. So, anyway, we'll be back. We hope you will too. Stay safe and on into 2021. Happy holidays, whatever it is that you celebrate. Enjoy them. Stay well, and we'll see you on the other side.
Thank you, everyone.
Keeping the learning.
The learning
On.
on